testimony is I believed in Christ all my life. Somehow when I was young, I think my female elders were of different sizes, and being a child, a baby in arms, I couldn't stand somebody being hurt. So I was in the aisles most of my life. When I was 11, I accepted Christ. But when you're out in the street in the neighborhood, and it was a neighborhood that was going from country to town like, how often does Christ come up? So with certain worldly intrusions, I got caught up in a lot of things. I spent most of my young life playing sports, which kept me out of a lot of trouble. I was not good for school teams, but I had enough for both teams in my neighborhood. When I kept getting into more and more stuff, when I was 14, I was confirmed, and I stood at the top of the kitchen stairs and said, I think I can worship God without having to go to church. There was a big quiet, and all of a sudden you heard, well, if you think you don't have to go to church, you don't have to go to church. I had a 10-year absence. Whenever he came up, I was right there. I believed in him. I believed in him all my life. There was those who didn't, but I stayed with him, even though I was getting into more and more and more things. When I was 20, God hit me hard. I was under influence, and he in his way, it was his way, said shape up or ship out. I believed him. When I was 21, I took the Bible off the shelf and I started reading. I was a graduate from high school, college courses, trigonometry, physics, and stuff like that. I didn't study, but because of my care for people, and I listened when I was in class, I passed. When I was around, I finished the Bible a year. I can't keep doing what I was doing, so I stopped. I finished the Bible 6 months. By that time I was 23, starting at 21, 23. 4 years later, I had it once for every year of my life. 4 years, 25 times. I didn't want to boast, so I immediately lost count. I was a poor student. So my first time I said, God, please let me not read the Bible for me, let me read it for you. Well, you know my study habits. About 78, God said in his way, I kept me where I was. And I told you about 77, I couldn't continue this. In 78, God said in his way, don't take a woman anymore to help you live for God. I knew I couldn't do it. I knew not to make a vow because when I was 13, I was with this group. We'll never touch that stuff. When I was 16, I was with this group, and that group never even came up. And so, immediately I responded, God, if this is the way you want me to live, this is the way I'll live. For I couldn't do it. And around the same time, he said, read the Bible or go to college. If I went to college with my poor study habits, when would I want to read the Bible in my spare time? So I chose the Bible. When I was 22, my first 22 years of believing in God, I did it wrong. My second 22 years, I was shaken up. When I was hit hard in 20, God said, shape up or ship out. I had to live I lived my first 22 years over again. At the end of my second 22 years, me to the church. I've been at the church now as a volunteer janitor for 26 years. I was freed from unrequitedness 31 years ago. 5 years later, they moved me to the church. When they moved me into the church from the parsonage, Christian book distributors saw I had the same address as the church. He started sending me materials about monks. I was already living that life. So instead of with the youth group, I brought my hands together and declared I live as a monk. That's a lot easier than saying, I live as a eunuch for the king. Hello? Hello? I live as a monk. If they have any question, then we can have dialogue. Thank you. May God be blessed.
Praise God.